The pool fell silent as 20 screaming children watched their swim lesson dissolve into chaos. Karen's finger hovered over the emergency shutoff, her smile cold as Arctic water. But she had no idea that her neighbor possessed the one skill that would turn her petty victory into her worst nightmare in exactly 47 minutes. When her dinner party guests arrived, she'd discovered just how deep revenge could flow. The chlorinated air hung thick over Maplewood Community Pool. As Maya Rodriguez adjusted her whistle, watching 23 children bob like colorful corks in the shallow end. Tuesday evening swim lessons were her favorite. The kids were tired enough from school to actually listen. And the pool deck wasn't crawling with hovering parents documenting every paddle stroke for social media. "All right, guppies," Maya called out, her voice carrying easily across the water. "Let's practice our freestyle breathing. Remember, turn your head like you're sleeping on a pillow." 7-year-old Tommy Henderson immediately began thrashing like he was drowning, sending waves cascading over the pool's edge. Maya bit back a laugh. The kid had more enthusiasm than technique, but that was fine. At 8 years old, she'd been the same way. "Easy there, champ," she said, crouching at the pool's edge. "You're not fighting the water, you're dancing with it." The automatic filtration system hummed its familiar tune in the background, and Maya felt that familiar sense of contentment that came with doing work she loved. She'd been teaching swim lessons for 6 years, ever since she'd graduated with her degree in kinesiology. The pay wasn't stellar, but watching kids conquer their fear of water made every splash worth it. That's when she noticed Karen Whitmore, marching across the pool deck like she owned the place. Karen was a fixture at the community center, 42 years old. Platinum blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail tight enough to lift her eyebrows, and the kind of athletic wear that cost more than Maya's monthly grocery budget. She served on the Homeowners Association board, ran the neighborhood book club with military precision, and had opinions about everything from proper lawn maintenance to acceptable Christmas decorations. Today, she looked particularly agitated. "Excuse me." Karen's voice cut through the children's laughter like a cleaver. "I need to speak with whoever's in charge here." Maya swam to the edge, water streaming from her dark hair. "That would be me. I'm Maya, the instructor. Is there something I can help you with?" Karen's eyes narrowed as she took in Maya's appearance, the simple black one-piece swimsuit, the lack of designer accessories, the calloused hands that spoke of actual work rather than gym memberships. "I'm Karen Whitmore. I live at 847 Elm Street." She paused, as if expecting recognition. When Maya's expression remained politely blank, Karen's jaw tightened. "I'm hosting an important dinner party tonight for my husband's colleagues, and this noise is completely unacceptable." Maya glanced around the pool area. The community center was surrounded by a privacy fence, and the nearest residential properties were at least 200 yards away. "I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what noise you're referring to." "The kids are just the screaming," Karen interrupted. "The splashing. The general chaos. Some of us are trying to prepare for sophisticated adult gatherings, not listen to children behaving like animals." Heat flashed through Maya's chest, but she kept her voice level. "Ma'am, this is a community pool. These are scheduled swim lessons that run every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. They've been on the calendar for months." "Well, they shouldn't be," Karen snapped. "Not when respectable homeowners are trying to entertain. I want them stopped immediately." Behind Maya, the children had begun to quiet. Sensing the tension, Tommy Henderson's wide eyes darted between the two women, his small hands gripping the pool's edge. "I understand you're concerned about noise," Maya said carefully, "but these children have paid for their lessons. Their parents have arranged their schedules around this time slot. I can't just cancel because..." "Because what?" Karen's voice rose an octave. "Because you think $20 from some random parents matters more than a dinner party that could secure my husband's promotion." Maya felt her professional smile slipping. "Because it wouldn't be fair to the kids, or their families." "Fair." Karen let out a bark of laughter. "Let me explain something about fairness, sweetie. I pay more in annual HOA fees than you probably make in 3 months. I've contributed thousands of dollars to this community center through fundraisers and donations. These people," she gestured dismissively at the children, "probably pay the bare minimum and expect premium service." The pool deck fell silent except for the gentle lapping of water against the tiles. Maya was acutely aware of 23 pairs of young eyes watching this confrontation unfold. "Mrs. Whitmore," said her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "I'm going to ask you to please lower your voice. You're scaring the children." "Good," Karen snapped. "Maybe they'll learn some respect for their betters." That was the line Maya hadn't realized she'd drawn until Karen crossed it. "I think you should leave," Maya said, no longer bothering to hide. The steel in her voice, Karen's face flushed red. "Leave. I don't think you understand who you're talking to. I could have you fired with one phone call to the city council." "Then make it," Maya replied evenly. "But until you do, these children are finishing their lesson." For a moment, Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Maya could practically see the gears grinding in her head as she calculated her next move. Then, Karen's eyes lit up with malicious glee. "You know what? You're right. I can't make you leave." She turned toward the pool house, her heels clicking against the wet concrete. "But I can solve this problem another way." Maya's stomach dropped as she realized where Karen was headed. The pool house contained the main controls for the filtration system, the lighting, and most importantly, the water supply. "Ma'am, you can't go in there," Maya called out. But Karen was already pushing through the door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Maya hauled herself out of the pool and ran after her, but Karen had already reached the control panel. Her manicured finger hovered over a large red button labeled "Emergency Water Shutoff." "Don't," Maya said, her heart hammering. "That system takes hours to restart. If you shut it off now, then maybe next time you'll think twice about defying me," Karen said, and pressed the button. The humming of the pumps died instantly. Within seconds, the flow of fresh water into the pool ceased, and Maya watched in horror as the water level began to drop imperceptibly. "You just cost 23 kids their lesson," Maya said, her voice shaking with rage. "And their parents, their money." Karen shrugged. "They can reschedule. My dinner party can't." She brushed past Maya toward the exit, then paused. "Oh, and sweetie, next time someone with actual authority in this community tells you to do something, maybe listen." The first time, the door slammed behind her, leaving Maya alone with the silent control panel and the sound of confused children calling her name from the pool. Maya stared at the red button, her hands clenched into fists. She'd dealt with difficult parents before, but nothing like this. Karen hadn't just disrupted a swim lesson, she'd stolen something from these kids. The confidence they'd been building, the progress they'd been making, the simple joy of learning something new. But as Maya walked slowly back to the pool to explain to 23 disappointed children why their lesson was over, one thought kept echoing in her mind: Karen Whitmore had made a very big mistake, because Maya Rodriguez wasn't just a swim instructor. She was also a licensed plumber who'd worked her way through college running emergency repairs for the city's water department. She knew every pipe, valve, and shut-off in the Maplewood subdivision, including the one that controlled the water supply to 847 Elm Street. Maya stood on the pool deck, watching 23 crushed faces staring up at her from the water. Little Sarah Chen's bottom lip trembled as she clung to the pool's edge, and Tommy Henderson had gone completely still the first time Maya had ever seen him not moving. "Miss Maya," Sarah's voice was barely audible. "Are we in trouble?" The question hit Maya like a physical blow. These kids thought they'd done something wrong. They thought this was their fault. "No, sweetheart," Maya said, crouching down at the pool's edge. "You're not in trouble. None of you are. But we need to get out of the water now. Okay?" As the children reluctantly climbed out, Maya's mind raced. The pool's water level would continue dropping until the pumps ran dry, potentially damaging the entire system. She'd have to call maintenance, file incident reports, contact parents. Karen's tantrum would cost the community center hundreds of dollars in repairs and lost revenue. But that wasn't what made Maya's hands shake as she helped towel off the kids. It was the way Tommy's shoulders slumped as his mother arrived to pick him up early. The way Sarah asked if they could still have lessons next week. The way every single child apologized to Maya as they left, as if they'd somehow caused this. 20 minutes later, Maya sat alone in her car in the community center parking lot, staring at her phone. She'd already called her supervisor, the maintenance crew, and every parent. The pool would be closed for at least 2 days. 3 families had asked for refunds they couldn't afford to give. Her phone buzzed with a text from her supervisor. "City's pissed about the emergency shutdown. Someone's going to have to pay for the repairs. Hope your insurance is up to date." Maya closed her eyes and leaned back against the headrest. She'd been saving for months to replace her car's transmission. Now that money would probably go to covering the community center's damages, assuming she didn't lose her job entirely. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a group text from the neighborhood app that covered the Maplewood area. The sender was Karen Whitmore. "PSA for Elm Street residents. Please keep noise levels down tonight as I'll be hosting important guests. Some consideration for your neighbors would be appreciated." Maya stared at the message, her vision blurring red around the edges. Karen was at home right now, probably arranging flowers and polishing silverware, completely oblivious to the chaos she'd caused. No consequences, no accountability. Just moving on with her perfect evening while 23 kids went to bed disappointed. That's when Maya made her decision. She drove home to her small apartment and pulled out the toolbox she kept in her bedroom closet. The heavy metal case was filled with pipe wrenches, shut-off tools, and pressure gauges, relics from her college days when she'd worked nights and weekends for Maplewood Municipal Water Services. Most people didn't know that every house in the subdivision had an individual water shutoff valve located at the street. Most people didn't know where to find them or how to operate them without specialized tools. Maya was not most people. She'd spent 3 years crawling through muddy ditches, learning every inch of Maplewood's water infrastructure. She could locate any shutoff valve in the dark, and she knew exactly how long it would take for a house to run out of water pressure. Once the supply was cut, at 6:47 p.m., Maya parked her car 3 blocks away from Elm Street and walked casually through the neighborhood, her tools hidden in a gym bag slung over her shoulder. The autumn air was crisp, and golden light spilled from windows as families settled in for dinner. 847 Elm Street stood out like a beacon. Every light was on, and Maya could see figures moving behind the pristine white curtains. Karen's silver Mercedes sat in the driveway alongside a sleek black BMW and a red Tesla. The dinner party was already underway. Maya found the water shut-off valve exactly where she expected, buried under a small concrete cover near the sidewalk, hidden behind Karen's meticulously maintained rose bushes. She glanced around once, confirming the street was empty, then knelt and lifted the cover with practiced ease. The shut-off valve gleamed dully in the streetlight. 1/4 turned to the left, and Karen Whitmore's water supply would be history. Maya hesitated, her wrench poised over the valve. This was crossing a line she'd never crossed before. Sure, she'd fantasized about getting back at difficult customers or unreasonable bosses, but she'd never actually acted on those impulses. Then she thought about Tommy Henderson's face when he'd asked if he was in trouble, about Sarah's trembling lip, about 23 kids who'd done nothing wrong except try to learn how to swim. Maya turned the valve. The effect wasn't immediate. Houses had water pressure stored in their pipes, enough to last several minutes under normal usage. But Maya knew that Karen's dinner party wouldn't involve normal usage. There would be cooking, dishwashing, multiple bathrooms being used, wine glasses being rinsed. Maya walked back to her car and drove to a coffee shop with a clear view of Elm Street. She ordered a latte and settled in at a window table, checking her watch. 7:15 p.m. At 7:23, Maya's phone buzzed with a notification from the neighborhood app. Karen had posted a new message. Is anyone else experiencing water pressure issues? Our shower upstairs just stopped working. Maya sipped her latte and waited. 7:31 p.m. Water completely out at our house. This is a disaster. Does anyone have the city's emergency number? 7:35 p.m. Urgent. Need a plumber immediately? Hosting important dinner guests and have nitrogen monoxide water anywhere in the house. We'll pay double for emergency service. Maya's phone started buzzing with responses from neighbors. Most expressed sympathy and offered bottled water. A few suggested calling the city's water department. One helpful soul posted the number 4, Maplewood Municipal Water Services. At 7:42 p.m., Maya's old work phone rang. Maplewood Water Emergency Line. This is Dave. Maya recognized the voice of her former supervisor. Hey Dave, it's Maya Rodriguez. I heard you might have a situation on Elm Street. Maya? Yeah, we just got a frantic call from some lady about a total water outage. Thing is, we're not showing any mainline problems in that area. Probably an individual shutoff issue, but we don't have anyone available until tomorrow morning. You still doing freelance work? Maya smiled. I might be able to help. What's the address? 847 Elm Street. Lady's name is Karen something. She sounded pretty desperate, mentioned paying extra for emergency service. I'll take care of it, Maya said. Should I give her a call? That'd be great. I'll text you her number. Maya hung up and stared at Karen's contact information on her phone screen. She could end this right now. Drive back to Elm Street, turn the valve back on, and pretend this never happened. Instead, she finished her latte and drove home. At 8:15 p.m., her phone exploded with notifications from the neighborhood app. Karen Whitmore. This is absolutely unacceptable. My husband's boss and his wife had to leave because we couldn't even serve them coffee. The city water department is useless. If anyone knows a reliable plumber, please message me immediately. Karen Whitmore, offering $500 cash to any plumber who can fix this tonight. My husband's career is on the line. Karen Whitmore, please, someone help us. The dinner party is ruined and I don't know what to do. Maya set her phone aside and made herself dinner. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, while her phone continued buzzing with Karen's increasingly desperate messages. At 9:30 p.m., Maya finally called her. Hello. Karen's voice was sharp with panic. Mrs. Whitmore, this is Maya Rodriguez from Maplewood Municipal Water Services. I understand you're having some water issues. There was a pause. Rodriguez? That name sounds familiar. I do freelance emergency repairs, Maya continued smoothly. I can be there in 20 minutes, but my emergency rate is $800. Cash only. $800. Karen started to protest, then caught herself. Fine, yes, please come immediately. I'll be right there, Maya said, and hung up. She took her time gathering her tools, checking her appearance in the mirror, and driving to Elm Street. Karen's house was blazing with lights, but the other cars were gone. Maya could see Karen pacing frantically behind the living room windows. Maya parked in the driveway and walked to the front door, tool bag in hand. She rang the doorbell and waited. Karen yanked the door open, her perfectly styled hair now disheveled, her makeup smudged with stress sweat. She was still wearing an elegant black cocktail dress, but it was wrinkled and stained with what looked like wine. Thank God you're here, Karen breathed. I don't know what happened, but the water just stopped working right in the middle of. She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening in recognition. You, she whispered. Maya smiled pleasantly. Good evening, Mrs. Whitmore. I understand you're having some water problems. Karen's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and slowly dawning horror as the pieces clicked into place. You did this, she said, her voice barely audible. You shut off our water. Maya tilted her head innocently. Ma'am, I'm just here to help with your emergency repair. Now, about that $800. Karen's hand gripped the doorframe so tightly her knuckles went white. Behind her, Maya could see the remnants of what had clearly been an elaborate dinner setup. Crystal glasses abandoned on elegant placemats, a half-carved roast, sitting cold, on a silver platter, wine stains on the pristine white tablecloth. You can't prove anything, Karen whispered, but her voice shook. Maya adjusted her tool bag on her shoulder. Ma'am, I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm just a licensed plumber responding to an emergency service call. Are you going to let me in to diagnose your water problem? Or should I tell the city you refused service? Karen's mind was clearly racing. Maya could practically see her weighing options: call the police and accuse Maya of sabotage with no evidence, or let her supposed enemy into her house to fix a problem that was destroying her husband's career prospects. From somewhere inside the house, a man's voice called out, Karen, is that the plumber? For God's sake, let them in. Karen's jaw worked silently for a moment, then she stepped aside. The payment is $800 cash, right? That's correct. Maya stepped into the foyer, taking in the marble floors, the crystal chandelier, the oil paintings that probably cost more than Maya's annual salary. Nice place. Richard Whitmore appeared from what looked like a home office, his shirt sleeves rolled up and his tie loosened. He was a tall, thin man with prematurely gray hair and the kind of defeated posture that came from watching years of careful planning crumble in a single evening. Thank you for coming so quickly, he said, extending his hand to Maya. I'm Richard. This is an absolute disaster. My boss and his wife had to leave before we even served the main course. 20 years I've been working toward making partner, and he stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. Sorry, you don't need to hear about our problems. Can you fix this? Maya shook his hand, noting how Karen's face twitched at her husband's casual friendliness toward their set. I'll need to check a few things. The issue could be anywhere from your mainline connection to individual fixtures. Whatever it takes, Richard said. Money's no object. Karen made a small choking sound. Let me start with your shutoff valve, Maya said. It's located near the street, usually behind some landscaping. I'll need to test the water pressure at the source. I'll show you, Richard offered, but Maya waved him off. No need, I know where to look. She glanced at Karen, whose face had gone ashen. These suburban installations are pretty standard. Maya walked back outside, leaving Karen and Richard to their whispered argument in the foyer. She could hear Karen's hissed accusations through the open door, telling you, she's the one who, followed by Richard's confused responses. What are you talking about? You're being paranoid. Maya knelt beside the water shutoff and opened her tool bag with deliberate slowness. She could feel Karen watching from the window, probably trying to figure out what Maya's endgame was. The truth was, Maya hadn't thought this far ahead. She'd acted on pure anger. But now she was face to face with the consequences of her actions. She thought about those 23 kids again, about Tommy Henderson's slumped shoulders, about the community center's repair costs that she'd probably have to help cover. Maya turned the shutoff valve back on. Water pressure returned to the house immediately. Through the open front door, Maya could hear Richard's relieved shout. Working. The kitchen sink's working. Maya packed up her tools and walked back to the house. Richard met her at the door with a grateful smile and an envelope full of cash. You're a lifesaver, he said. What was the problem? Looks like your main shutoff got turned accidentally, Maya said, pocketing the $800. Probably. A city worker doing maintenance and forgot to turn it back on fully? Happens more often than you'd think. Richard nodded, clearly relieved to have a simple explanation. Well, thank you again. I know it's late, but would you like to stay for coffee? It's the least we can do, Richard. Karen's voice was sharp. I'm sure she has other emergency calls to get to. Maya met Karen's eyes over her husband's shoulder. The other woman's expression was a mixture of rage, fear, and something that might have been grudging respect. Actually, Maya said, I think I will take that coffee. It's been a long evening. Karen's face went through several interesting color changes, but she couldn't object without seeming rude in front of her husband. Of course, she said through gritted teeth. Come in. The kitchen was a masterpiece of marble countertops and stainless steel appliances. Richard busied himself making coffee while Karen stood rigidly by the island, watching Maya's every movement. So what kind of work do you normally do? Richard asked, setting down 3 steaming mugs. Besides emergency plumbing, I teach swimming lessons at the community center, Maya said, taking a sip of coffee. Actually, I had to cut class short tonight because of a water emergency there too. Richard frowned. What kind of emergency? Maya glanced at Karen, who had gone perfectly still. Someone shut off the pool's water supply during a children's lesson. 23 kids had to get out of the pool and go home disappointed. That's terrible, Richard said. Who would do something like that? Someone who thought a dinner party was more important than children's safety, Maya said evenly. Karen's coffee mug trembled in her hands. Richard shook his head in disgust. What kind of person disrupts kids' activities? That's just selfish, Karen said quietly. Maybe we should let Ms. Rodriguez get back to her work. But Richard was on a roll now, his frustration over the evening's disasters spilling out. You know what the worst part is? My boss asked me tonight if I thought I had the right temperament for partnership. He said the firm needs people who can handle pressure without taking it out on innocent bystanders. He took a long sip of coffee. 20 years of work, and he's questioning my character because of one bad evening. Maya felt a flicker of something that might have been guilt. Richard seemed like a decent man who'd gotten caught in the crossfire of his wife's entitlement. I'm sure he'll understand once things calm down, Maya said. Maybe. Richard sighed. Karen was so stressed about impressing them that she spent weeks planning every detail. She even went to the community center this afternoon to make sure there wouldn't be any noise disturbances during dinner. Maya's eyes sharpened. She went to the community center. Oh yes, Richard continued, oblivious to his wife's increasingly panicked expression. She was worried about some swimming class that runs Tuesday evenings. She wanted to ask them to keep the noise down during our party. And what happened when she asked? Richard frowned, looking at Karen. You know, she never told me how that conversation went. Karen's face had gone completely white. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to set down her coffee mug. The instructor was uncooperative, she managed. Uncooperative how? Maya asked innocently. She wouldn't listen to reason. What kind of reason? Richard pressed, genuine curiosity in his voice. Karen's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Maya could practically see her brain scrambling for a story that would make her sound like a monster in front of her husband. I explained about the dinner party, Karen said finally, about how important it was for Richard's career. But she said the children had already paid for their lessons. Well, that's true, Richard said reasonably. They did pay for lessons. But our dinner was more important. The words burst out of Karen before she could stop them. Those people could have rescheduled. They could have, she caught herself. But it was too late. Richard was staring at his wife with an expression Maya had never seen before, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. Karen, he said slowly, what exactly did you do at the community center? Maya leaned back in her chair, sipping her coffee. Yes, Karen, tell your husband what you did. Karen's eyes darted between them like a trapped animal. There was an emergency shut-off button. You shut off the pool water. Richard's voice rose in disbelief. During a children's swim lesson, it was an emergency. Karen protested. Your boss was coming. Your career was my career. Richard stood up so fast his chair scraped against the marble floor. You traumatized a bunch of kids for my career. Without even asking me. I was protecting our future. Future. Richard's laugh was bitter. Karen, do you know what my boss said when he left tonight? He said he couldn't partner with someone whose family values were so clearly out of alignment with the firm's community service mission. Karen went very still. What does that mean? It means there is no partnership. It means 20 years of work down the drain because my wife thought her dinner party was more important than children's safety. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Maya watched the devastation play across Karen's face as she realized what her actions had cost them. But, Karen whispered, but if Ms. Rodriguez hadn't shut off our water, if I hadn't what? Maya's voice was dangerously quiet. Karen's mouth snapped shut, realizing her mistake. Richard turned to Maya with sudden understanding. Wait, you think she shut off our water? As payback, Maya set down her coffee mug and stood. Mr. Whitmore, your water shut-off valve was turned clockwise, which cuts off supply. It would take someone with specialized knowledge to locate it and operate it properly. She paused. Your wife cost 23 children their swim. Maya woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Her phone had been buzzing since 6 a.m., and most of the messages were from the same number, Karen Whitmore. The texts started desperate. Please call me. We need to talk. Then angry. You can't just destroy people's lives and walk away. Then threatening. I'm calling the police. This is extortion. And finally, at 5:47 a.m., Richard left for his brother's house. He won't talk to me. 22 years of marriage down the drain because of your petty revenge. Maya deleted the messages without responding and drove to the community center. She had a meeting with her supervisor at 9 and she suspected it wouldn't be pleasant. The pool area looked sad and abandoned in the morning light. Yellow caution tape blocked access to the water, and a maintenance crew was running diagnostics on the damaged filtration system. Maya's stomach clenched as she calculated the cost of the repairs. Maya, her supervisor, Janet Reyes, appeared beside her with a steaming cup of coffee and a grim expression. We need to talk. They sat in Janet's cramped office overlooking the pool deck. Janet was in her 50s, a former competitive swimmer who'd run the aquatics program for over a decade. She'd given Maya her first job and had been nothing but supportive over the years. The damage assessment came back, Janet said, without preamble. $3,800 to replace the damaged pump components and recalibrate the system. Maya's heart sank. I can cover part of that. I have some savings, Maya. Janet held up a hand. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you have anything to do with that emergency shutdown yesterday? Maya met her supervisor's eyes. She could lie, make up a story about Karen acting on her own, frame herself as just another victim of an entitled parent's tantrum. Janet would probably believe her. Instead, she told the truth. Karen Whitmore shut off the pool water because she wanted to stop the children's lesson for her dinner party. She humiliated those kids and cost us thousands in repairs. So yes, I shut off her water supply in return. Janet was quiet for a long moment, staring at her coffee. Maya, you can't vigilante justice your way through life. What you did was illegal. What she did was worse. Maybe. But you're the one with specialized knowledge who deliberately damaged someone's property in retaliation. If she presses charges, she won't, Maya said with more confidence than she felt. How can you be sure? Maya pulled out her phone and showed Janet the envelope from last night. Because I have $800 of her money and a signed work order showing she hired me to fix her water emergency. She can't press charges without admitting she hired the person she's accusing of sabotage. Janet stared at the cash. You charged her $800. Emergency rates. Maya counted out the bills and placed them on Junaid's desk. For the community center, to help cover the pool repairs. Janet looked from the money to Maya's face. This doesn't make what you did right. No, Maya agreed. But it makes us even. Before Janet could respond, her desk phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned. It's the mayor's office. She picked up the call, and Maya watched her supervisor's expression change from concern to confusion to something approaching disbelief. Yes, I understand, Janet said. Yes, she's here now. We'll be right over. She hung up and stared at Maya. The mayor wants to see us. Both of us right now. 20 minutes later, Maya sat in the plush waiting area outside Mayor Patricia's office, trying not to fidget. Janet paced the small space like a caged tiger, periodically shooting worried glances at Maya. Maybe I should call the union representative, Janet muttered. The office door opened, and Mayor Chen emerged, a compact woman in her early 60s, with steel-gray hair and the kind of presence that commanded attention. She was followed by a younger man in an expensive suit who looked vaguely familiar. Ms. Rodriguez. Mayor Chen extended her hand. I'm Patricia Chen. This is David Kim from the Hartwell, Kim & Associates law firm. Maya's blood turned to ice. Law firm Karen had called lawyers. Please, come in, Mayor Chen continued. We have quite a situation to discuss. The mayor's office was dominated by a massive oak desk and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Maplewood's downtown district. David Kim settled into a chair across from Maya and opened a leather portfolio. Ms. Rodriguez, he began, I understand you've been working as a swim instructor at the community center for 6 years. Yes, Maya said carefully. And before that, you worked for the city's water department? For 3 years. During college, David nodded and pulled out a document. I'm representing the Hartwell law firm in a rather unusual matter. It seems one of our partners, Richard Whitmore, has submitted a formal complaint against his wife regarding events that occurred yesterday evening. Maya blinked. I'm sorry. What? Mayor Chen leaned forward. Mr. Whitmore contacted our office this morning. He wants to file charges against his wife for malicious destruction of public property and endangering children's welfare. He's divorcing her, David added, and he's asking the firm to pursue criminal charges for her actions at the community center. Apparently, her behavior cost him a partnership he'd been working toward for 20 years. Maya stared at them both. Richard Whitmore is pressing charges against his own wife, ex-wife. As of this morning, David corrected, he's also offering to personally cover all damages to the community center and establish a scholarship fund for local children's swimming lessons. Janet made a small choking sound. Now Mayor Chen continued. Mr. Whitmore also mentioned that you may have been involved in a retaliatory incident at his residence last night. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Ma'am, he specifically wanted me to tell you that he doesn't blame you for your actions. Given the circumstances, he's chosen not to pursue any charges related to the water shutoff incident. He's not pressing charges? On the contrary, David said, consulting his notes. He's recommending you for the city's Community Service Excellence Award. Quote, Ms. Rodriguez showed remarkable restraint in the face of unconscionable behavior, and her dedication to the children in her program is exemplary. Maya's mouth fell open. There is, however, one complication, Mayor Chen said. Mrs. Whitmore, soon to be Ms. Karen Sullivan, her maiden name, has been making some rather wild accusations about you. She called the police this morning claiming you money from her family. Maya's throat went dry. I charged her for emergency plumbing services, which is perfectly legal, David confirmed. We've reviewed the signed work order. You provided a service, she paid for it, end of transaction. But, Mayor Chen continued, she's also claiming you orchestrated the entire incident to damage her reputation and marriage. That's ridiculous, Janet said. Maya couldn't have known that woman would shut off the pool water. Exactly what we told Miss Sullivan, David said, along with the fact that her accusations would require her to admit, under oath, that she deliberately endangered children and damaged public property for the sake of a dinner party. Mayor Chen smiled grimly. Surprisingly, she's decided not to pursue legal action after all. Maya slumped back in her chair, feeling like she'd been put through an emotional blender. So what happens now? Now, Mayor Chen said, you go back to teaching swimming lessons. The pool will be operational again tomorrow, thanks to Mr. Whitmore's generous donation. And in 3 weeks, you'll be honored at the City Council meeting for your commitment to community service. As for Ms. Sullivan, David added, she's moving back to her mother's house in Ohio. Apparently, she's decided that Maplewood doesn't suit her anymore. Maya walked out of City Hall in a daze, Janet beside her chattering excitedly about scholarship funds and community awards. But Maya barely heard her. She kept thinking about Richard Whitmore's expression last night when he'd realized what his wife had done to those children. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Richard Whitmore. I wanted to apologize for my wife's actions, and thank you for opening my eyes. Those kids are lucky to have you as a teacher. I hope you can forgive an old fool who took 20 years to see what was right in front of him. Maya typed back, nothing. To forgive? Take care of yourself. 3 hours later, Maya stood at the edge of the empty pool, watching the maintenance crew complete their final tests. The water was crystal clear, the pumps humming their familiar tune. Tomorrow, children would be back for their lesson. Her phone rang. Tommy Henderson's mother? Maya, I know the pool was closed today, but Tommy's been practicing his breathing exercises in the bathtub. He wanted me to ask if you think he's ready to try the deep end next week. Maya smiled, feeling something tight in her chest. Finally relax. Tell Tommy we'll work on it together. And tell him I can't wait to see that picture he drew. Oh, he's so excited to show you. He made you a whole book of swimming pictures. One for every stroke you taught him. After she hung up, Maya sat on the pool deck and pulled out the envelope of cash Karen had paid her, $800. She'd told Janet it was for the community center, but the repairs were covered now. Maya thought about 23 disappointed faces, about Tommy Henderson's slumped shoulders, about the scholarship fund Richard Whitmore was establishing. She thought about Karen Whitmore, packing her belongings and driving back to Ohio, her perfect life in ruins because she